here's Brody Brazil.
Here's the thing about voicemails lately. I've been getting so many of them at 833-4Brody, but I also listen to all of them, and I get to play the very best ones back here on the channel.
Hey, Brody, this is Rick from Hayward. Hey, there's nothing really about Oracle Park and how hard it is to hit home runs and get the ball out of the ballpark. Just wondering if you could do a video on that and why the Giants are so reluctant to changing the dimensions in the ballpark to make it more hitter-friendly. Examples are Willy Adames going from 18 home runs and 65 RBIs last year at American Family Field to right now 6 home runs and 24 RBIs at Oracle Park and batting .237. Thanks a lot. Love your videos. Have a good day.
Rick, thank you for calling in from Hayward. Just had to do that. But I think what you bring up is an interesting point. It has been discussed at length among Giants fans over the years. Is it, and I want to bring up this question first, is it the ballpark or is it Giants teams that just can't do one of two things? Hit for average or hit for power or do both? Because I think we can talk about a player's batting average being lower when they're at Oracle Park, or we can talk about the fewer amount of home runs they hit, maybe as a Giant versus being on a different team. And there is this crazy stat that no Giant has still hit 30 home runs in a season since Barry Bonds did that. It's crazy. And is some of that because of the home park being Oracle Park, which has clearly played over the decades more as a pitcher-friendly park than a hitter-friendly park? And I will say that even when games were being played at the Coliseum, during the daytime, the ball would carry. A nice clear sky day, a little bit of wind. Yeah, balls would fly out of the Oakland Coliseum. At nighttime, it was different. More of a pitcher-friendly park. And all the foul ground to foul territory, pitcher-friendly park. But at Oracle Park, day or night, it's almost always a pitcher-friendly park. And we can also talk about climate and the marine layer and wind, and we'll do that in just a second. But first, I think, Rick, the biggest thing we've got to start with are the dimensions, to your point, at Oracle Park. And why don't they change this? Why don't they basically draw that line right there and cut off Triple's alley? I love the 415. Like it used to be 421, I want to say, out there to right center. They changed it. They put the bullpens in. 415 is the area code, by the way, for those of you not familiar. Why don't they do that? I don't know, but I actually want to start off with places you typically see home runs hit at Oracle Park. A lot of times, straight up left field or down the left field line. It's 339. That's a little bit more of a poke to get it out there. Only 354. You only have 8 and 7 foot fence heights out here in left and left center field. But when you get to left center right here, 399 to left center, usually that's like 375. And it probably should be 375 over here. Maybe it should be 400 right there, but it's 391 to dead center. They actually pushed in the fence when they put the bullpens out there for both teams. They moved them from down the first and third base line. They put them out there in center field. So they've already kind of moved this in a little bit. I'm here to say and wonder, maybe it's time, especially in this area, that they move it in. Back to the home runs. You do see left-handed hitters pull to right field and hit it just inside the fair pole down to right field. You do see some get out here, but it really is kind of this line. You know what? Let me change this line to red. You pretty much don't see home runs a lot in that region. That is a lot of fence line right there to rarely ever see a home run leave the ballpark. You kind of also don't see a lot of home runs in that little spot right there too. You do see him dead center. Again, go back to orange. You do see him here. You do see him here. You just don't see him right there and right there. And so it makes me wonder, with a 20 and a 24-foot fence. Wait a second, 24 inches? Why didn't I see that before? 24 feet out there in right field. Man, I almost didn't catch that. 24 feet out here in right field. The bottom line is it's a hard place to hit home runs out of this ballpark, just given the dimensions, and especially if you're a left-handed hitter. I know Barry Bonds did it, but not a lot of others have had that same success. So do you remedy this simply by bringing the fences in? The problem is the way this wall is right here, and there's seats all the way up here. Like, what do you put in this area to finish that off? There's a lot of hardscapes. There's a lot of concrete walls and things that you can't really get around. The bleachers kind of end right there. I know there's a little club 415 area right there. The bullpens are there. How do you utilize that space? They could get creative. Look, this is the Giants, I'm sure. They could figure something out. But the point is, why don't they just do that? I kind of like the craziness that is Triples Alley. I'm not going to lie. I like the fact that if a center fielder is shading right there and you hit one out here, it's probably going to be a triple if you're fast. I do like that crazy element of baseball, but I'm starting to not want the trade-off when it means that, nobody's ever going to hit one out. Oh, I shouldn't have done that in blue. Nobody's ever going to hit one out over 415 and with a 20-foot high fence, kind of being out there to whatever certain point that is. Is that right there? Is that where the fence is? I'm trying to visualize it here. But the bottom line is, yes, I do think they could afford making some changes to the fence line. Start it small. Like, you don't have to go crazy and overcompensate, but bring the fences in a couple feet, make them lower fences, add something new out there. I don't think you get a lot of kickback. And it's amazing. I used to think when this ballpark opened, I remember the day, I was old enough to remember, I thought 309 to right field. I don't care if it's a 40-foot high fence. People are going to hit long shots over 309. And honestly, it doesn't happen as often as you'd think, and especially because the height of that fence. There's a lot of balls hit off that fence. But that's home runs. How about all the other stats? How about hitting for average? Does Oracle Park stop the Giants from hitting for average? These are the 2025 team stats through August 4th. And it's also important here that some of these stats, like home runs or total runs scored, they're based on the fact that the Giants have played 4 more road games as of right now, recording this, than home games. So some of the numerical stats are going to be skewed. The statistical and the average stats for batting average and slugging percentage, those are proportionate based on opportunity. But on the road this year, how about this? Road versus home. Look at that. They've scored 65 more runs on the road, even though they've played 4 more road games. You don't get 65 runs in 4 games ever, right? That doesn't happen. So they produce a lot more runs on the road. Simple as that. How about opponents? Well, versus the Giants, 200 to 214. Now, that's the same amount of games. Other teams come into Oracle Park and have scored more runs than the Giants have in their home ballpark this year. So again, is this a Giants problem that they just can't hit? Or their ballpark prevents them from hitting? And I'm not even saying this year's Giants or last year's Giants. I'm saying Giants teams of basically 25 years now, but this is this year's stats here in 2025. Batting average on the road, pretty comparable, right? So you can't make a criticism here and say, well, Oracle Park stops them from hitting for average because they're only 3 points better on the road. That's negligible. Other teams, though, yeah, they hit like 17 points higher, 232 versus 249. Other teams have a better batting average this year. Now, is some of that Giants pitching, or is that other teams and their ability to hit? You name it. On the road, here's the critical one. This is why I want to draw the line and say, if we're talking about hitting for average, there's not much of a difference. But hitting for power, and obviously scoring runs, 61 versus 44 and 265 versus 200. They hit a lot more home runs on the road than they do at Oracle Park. Now, this is where we're getting into the territory where I can say the ballpark and its dimensions and its climate are part of the issue here. Slugging percentage, I just wanted to show that in there too in terms of not just hits, but extra base hits. 388 on the road, 362 at home. Yeah, there's a significant drop-off in difference there. And here's the middle ground, 362 versus 375 for the Giants versus their opponents and what they do. So there is proof here. The numbers are telling you that based on this season, and I bet you this is true to a lot of seasons, other teams are better than the Giants offensively at Oracle Park than the Giants are. Mostly in terms of scoring runs, a little bit in terms of average, though. And the Giants, again, there's 2 things here going on, hitting for average and hitting for power. I'm telling you that I think the Giants are impacted hitting for power at Oracle Park. So of all the things you can and can't change the weather, can't change the climate, you can't change the structure of the third deck and how the barrier wind effect takes place. We'll get into that, I promise you, in just a second. You can change the dimensions of the field. So of all the uncontrollables here, there is one thing you can do: move the fences around. A lot of teams have done it over the years, including the Giants already. including the Baltimore Orioles. This is something, including the Toronto Blue Jays, this is something that happens in Major League Baseball. But I do want to point out there are other things at play. I went back on a video I actually did in 2023 when it was announced that Oracle Park back then was the windiest ballpark in Major League Baseball, which I do think has been surpassed this year by George Steinbrenner Field, where the Rays are playing their temporary season in Tampa. They've said that's now the windiest ballpark in Major League Baseball. But 2 years ago, it was Oracle Park, average sustained wind speed of 18 miles an hour. Yeah, it gets pretty windy. Now, you don't always feel it at field level. They did a great job engineering the ballpark, but that does create this barrier effect, which we'll get to in just a second. However, did you know, and I wish this was last year's stat, I wish this was this year's stat, so I had more relevant information or timely information, but in 2023, 1 in 3 games, basically once a home series, featured a wind-created or wind-prevented home run at Oracle Park. Think about that for just a second. In 2023, 1 in every 3 home games featured a ball that left the ballpark because of wind or stayed in the ballpark because of wind. And they actually measured it. They say that 10 were created that year from home runs and 16 were prevented from being home runs back in 2023. Like, that's a lot of impacted runs in a baseball game. That's 26 impacted runs in the 2023 season at home. I also want to mention this barrier effect, which was part of my research back then. The third deck goes up 123 feet at Oracle Park. That structure goes up. It's windy. You've seen the flags up there. If you've ever been to batting practice, you hear those flags whipping in the wind. However, it's like dead silent at field level. Again, the wind, it kind of carves above that third deck, but then it kind of curls. If I could draw this out here, how would I do this? Like, if this is the top of the third deck, there's the seats, and then here's like maybe the second deck in the club, and then there's the... So what happens here with the wind is that it's going this way, and it kind of curls on top here, and it kind of pushes down, and it creates all those little eddies. And cross myself out for a second. It creates all that turbulence and disturbance of the wind. So up here, well, back up there it was smooth, but down here it's disturbed. And because of that, it's pushing down. It's keeping baseballs in the ballpark instead of having that effect of continuing to push the ball out and over the fence. Anyway, that barrier effect is part of this. The marine layer fog, like thicker air, and if you've been to San Francisco in the summertime, that's when the fog is most intense, and it rips across the city from the Golden Gate to at 4 and 5 and 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. It's harder to hit a baseball in that thick, damp, moist air. Plus cold air, and what hitter wants to be up there for their 4th at-bat of the game in the 9th inning, and they're freezing cold, and they've been sitting in the dugout. I will say, as much as it's uncomfortable to sit in a hot, humid ballpark all night long, if you're a hitter, you want to stay warm. It's hard to stay warm. It's hard to perform when you get cold. That cold air does that. So it not only impacts the hitter, but also impacts the science of trajectory and the flight of a baseball. So I think all of this impacts power hitters most. I think that's the takeaway here. From what I've observed, the situations, they impact the whole scenario. Yes, I do think the fences should be moved in. That's not going to help anybody hit for average. Like Jung-Hoo Lee, as far as I'm concerned, when he's on, he could hit day, night, that little left-handed slap swing of his, that Ichiro-like swing of his, that works day, night, summer, spring, fall, Earth, moon, Mars, Venus, you name it. That works anywhere. But if we're talking about hitting home runs, then yeah, I think maybe the fences should be moved in at Oracle Park. I would be for that. Let me just make the video all about this now. I would be for moving the fences in at Oracle Park. Would you be for that too? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, thumbs up while you're down there. Helps me, the video, and the channel. And don't forget to subscribe down there. Hit that button to this channel right now. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.